Here's what lawyers need to know about Swift hacks in 5 minutes max. In the past year, hackers have robbed millions of dollars from banks using the Swift wire transfer system. Banco del Austro in Ecuador lost $12 million from its account at Wells Fargo. Bank Bangladesh lost $80 million from its account at the New York Fed. Tien Phong Bank in Vietnam was hit too, but it managed to stop the attack before it lost anything. And these are just a few examples. Some people think the money has gone to China or maybe North Korea. Nobody's quite sure. What we do know is that the Swift wire transfer system is at the center of it all. And there are three things that lawyers really need to understand about these hacks. First, it wasn't Swift that was hacked. It was the computers of the victims themselves. Second, there's already legal fighting over who bears the loss of these hacks, the victims or the banks holding the victims' accounts. And the outcome of that fight will profoundly shape how wire transfers happen in the next few years. Third, these hacks are causing Swift to rethink its approach to cybersecurity, and this too may dramatically reshape wire transfers around the world. But let's start from the beginning. A hack like this starts when a hacker manages to infiltrate the computers of a victim bank. The hacker learns that the victim has money in its account at the blue bank, so it uses the victim's own systems to send an instruction to the blue bank through Swift. Swift passes the message along to the blue bank. Swift also authenticates the message so that blue bank can rest assured that it really came from the victim. Blue bank then honors the instructions and sends the victim's money to the hackers. Notice something important. It was only the victim who was hacked. It wasn't Swift, and it wasn't blue bank. But it does pit the victim and blue bank against each other. Blue bank, after all, just gave a bunch of the victim's money to a hacker. If you're dealing with a US bank, there's a law that governs what happens in this situation, and it's the Uniform Commercial Code Article 4A. Under the UCC, Blue Bank normally has to reimburse its customer, which means money out of its own pocket. That's the default rule anyway. But in our hypothetical, Blue Bank isn't really at fault. It accepted authentication from Swift. What's more, Blue Bank had a contract with the victim saying that it's entitled to rely on Swift. When you put these two facts together, it means that Blue Bank gets to shift the cost of the hack back to the victim. But wait, we're not done. The victim then gets to claim that Swift authentication isn't a, quote, commercially reasonable, end quote, way to make sure wire transfers are authorized. It only tells you whether a Swift message comes from the right computers. It doesn't tell you whether there's a hacker sitting behind those computers. What Blue Bank should have done, according to our victim, is call the victim's offices and confirm the transfer order. But it didn't. And so if courts accept our victim's position, then the loss goes back to the blue bank. What can Blue Bank do to protect itself? Well, it can try to repaper its banking relationship with the victim, maybe add some additional clauses in its contract. But UCC Article 4A purports to be non-derogable in this respect. You can't just agree to disregard it. And that leaves something unpleasant. Blue Bank can call the victim every time it gets a transfer order. And it's not just the victim. It can also call this customer, and all these customers. That's a lot of phone calls. Another possibility is that Swift will change. Swift has created a new cybersecurity team. It's also given members until November 2016 to get their cybersecurity up to snuff. If they don't, Swift may report its members to their regulators. Swift has even threatened to wall itself off from institutions that don't have robust cybersecurity. That means that those institutions that don't meet Swift standards won't be able to send wire instructions. Swift would only let those institutions back into the network after they get hackers out of their systems and adopt good cybersecurity practices. And this would put the cost of Swift hacks back on bank victims, since it would cost money to upgrade systems and implement cybersecurity practices. But compared with the cost of being shut out of the worldwide financial system, cybersecurity is cheap. For more on cybersecurity law, visit Freshfields Digital at freshfields.com/digital.